Hello everyone, it's Maha. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me as always here on my channel. Today I have something very exciting to show you. I'm going to be talking about the Spirit Doodle cards made by Aylin Mills from our very own Space Between the Notes. I'm so excited to be sharing this deck with all of you. He generously gifted this deck to me around my birthday time, and I have been working with it, getting to know the cards, getting a feel for the cards, and appreciating the deck itself, this work of art that he's put together. And I really wanted to share it with you. I wanted to talk with you about why I love this deck, what I found so special about it, what I find different, unique, inspiring, and just really fun to work with about this deck. I wanted to spend some time talking about the guidebook first, and then I'm going to switch the camera and show you some of the cards. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm not going to do a full flip through. There are other videos out there on YouTube that you can find where they show you each of the cards. I just want to talk about some of the cards, sort of give you an idea of what the artwork looks like and what I feel about the cards that I'm going to show you, and just generally working with them, how I found them and everything. But I found that the guidebook is highly impressive, and for that reason I wanted to take some time in the beginning and just to take you through some of the things in the guidebook that I find very enriching. I have the guidebook sort of printed out right now in pieces of paper, but what I want to do is soon I'm going to bind them and make it into an actual book, because I have the downloadable PDF version. You can also purchase the guidebook when you buy the deck. I'll put all the links down below for you. So this is the thing. Aylin has, I remember when I watched his process on his channel, when he went through how he, like the developmental processes with the deck, like what he was going through as he was creating it and just sharing it, I remember thinking, wow, he's put so much time and so much work into this deck. I could really tell that he's really dedicated himself. He's engaged with not only the creative aspect, like the creation of the deck, but all the thoughts, all the research, all the just the energy put into the deck, the love that he poured into the deck. It was, I could feel it right from the beginning. And now that I actually have the deck and I have it in my hand and I've worked with it and I've looked and read through the guidebook, that's definitely coming through, all the work that he's put into it. I'm not sure exactly how many years it's taken him to do this deck, but I have a feeling it's taken a very, very long time. Now, I want to just tell you that this book, this guidebook, is just in and out of itself, hands down, an amazing book. It's so well written. It's beautifully written. I mean, I'm just so pleasantly surprised. I didn't know that Aylin had such a gift for writing. He is gifted musically. He's a talented musical artist, and I think, in my opinion, I'm feeling very grateful. I feel blessed to have him in this community. He's highly intelligent, and he's just so interesting and so humble, so kind, so generous, and just so humble. You know, when he speaks, it's like you can just tell, you can just see that sense of kind, generous humility, beautiful soul, and it really shows through the work. The guidebook, well, I want to start first by telling you that it's just so well written, and it has a lot of, like, it's very, he has a really good sense of humor. It's funny, and his writing is very approachable. It's very engaging. His sentences are simple yet engaging. Just pull you in. They draw you in, and you just want to keep reading more. So as just as a way of engaging with the book itself, I had a lot of fun. And I could tell that that was intended, that he wanted us to have fun while we're working with the deck. It's really about letting go of worrying about how to use the deck. I think it's a really great deck for beginners and for advanced alike. The guidebook itself, in my opinion, I mean, you may or may not know that I am a huge lover and fan of decks in general, and the artwork, and then the book itself too. I'm a guidebook fan. I love reading guidebooks, and over the years, I've come across so many decks and so many guidebooks. And I'm not going to name names, but there are decks in the mass market with authors that are highly known and loved by everyone. And I come across, grammatical mistakes, just errors in the writing, and it doesn't flow as beautifully as I would like sometimes the writing to be. So I'm actually quite picky with my decks, especially these days, because I have a huge collection and I am very, very picky. And so all that to say that I find this guidebook so beautifully written and so well put together. And what I love about it also is that he really encourages your own exploration with the cards, and he really makes it kind of light and fun. And also, as he says in the guidebook, one of the reasons why he created this deck is to encourage others to create their own deck and to explore their own creativity, their own ability to create. And he states that he never used to draw, and he doesn't call himself an artist, a visual artist by any means. So he's very inspiring and encouraging, and he just really wants you to engage with the whole process, not just working with the deck, but also thinking about your own way of looking at the world. So all that intro to say that hands down this book is one of my favorites as far as all books now that go with guidebooks. It is. And I really appreciate and I'm grateful for all the work that he's put into it. It's really, really impressive. So one thing I actually told him when I was watching the process of him creating the deck was, I told him that the art reminds me of an artist named Alexander Calder. I'll probably insert an image here. So Alexander Calder was an artist famous for his mobiles, where he made these sculptures that were hanging in the air, like suspended, and they would be moving. So sculptures in motion, and his whole thing was about the line. And he made these things out of sheet metal or like pieces of cardboard or thin wood. And then so these mobiles were hanging and moving, and that's what he was really famous for. He coined that term. I don't know if he coined the term mobile, but he in the art world, that's what he was famous for. So what I thought was really cool was in the guidebook, Aylin talked about how he just happened to come across these drawings by just doodling and making his line, like taking his line for a walk, and then just deciding to fill in the space. I'm just going to fan through the cards. I know you can't see with this camera, and I will switch it in a moment, like I said. But so he just started taking his line for a walk and decided that he was going to take his pen and fill in the spaces in between, fill in some spaces with black. He started with black and then leave in the lines. And I thought that was really interesting because his channel is called A Space Between the Notes, and he was filling in spaces, as he said it in the guidebook, filling in the spaces. So as he did that, he started to see shapes coming out and things moving. And I just want to read you something here, because that's, to me, that sort of goes with the first thing I thought about, which were those mobiles, those moving sculptures. He says, the drawings that emerged had motion, depth, and sometimes a three-dimensional feel. That's really cool, because I just thought that's exactly how I see them. I see them like they're moving, they're in motion, they're energy in motion. And so each card will have a keyword and some alchemical signs, and I'll tell you about that from the other part of the guidebook. And they are different colors, and he talks about how the colors represent different aspects. I mean, he goes through everything in the guidebook. He even does spreads, talks about spreads. He talks about, I just love the way he talks about using the cards. I haven't come across that in any other guidebook, really. He just really makes it easy and fun to follow, and you just want to try it. You just want to do it. It's just very genuine, very raw, very real, his writing, and that is really truly how he is, from the heart. Really comes through. So each card has, so first he goes through like the different things you can do with the cards, how you can use them, what he suggests, just some different fun things, some side notes, and talks about his creativity. And then he takes you to the cards. And so he's explaining here, I'm just going to read you the different symbols that each card has. So each card has a drawing, a title, a number, and an elemental symbol. So when he talks about numbers a little bit, and then so in each card entry in the guidebook, he's included a quote, something that he thought was relevant to the card. I love quotes. And then he's included his personal thoughts on the card. Then he's included when you get this card section. And this is to help you interpret the cards in the context of a reading. And of course, before all this, he talks about how, you don't have to go by what he's recommending. He really, at the same time, as you go through all this, allows for your own creative imagination to start triggering ideas, and he guides you through it. I think he's a really great guide. Then he has messages from his guides on the lesson of the cards, because he was intuitively guided to create each word, that each keyword that came with the card was it came to him from one of his spirit guides, and then he meditated and made the image according to that word. And then some additional list of keywords, guides, and correspondences. Then you have prompt, the initial message he received, as well as the emotional and spiritual impetus that made him draw the card in the first place. So that's what I was just saying. And then the keywords, so there's additional keywords, and then there's a shadow. There is emotion when you get this card. Possible emotions you may be experiencing when you get the card. Emotions to develop. I love that. Affirmation. And then a self-care activity. So he gives a little activity for each one. Music. Okay, so this is what I love. As a musician, he gives you pieces of musical ideas that he associates with the energy of the card. And he also says that you can find each piece, like there's a playlist for each of the cards and each piece of the music that he selected on his YouTube channel, which of course I'm linking below. And then I just want to say about that from someone who doesn't really know much about especially classical music and traditional music, it's really been awesome to explore other ways of looking at the cards. I find personally, I don't know what you think about this, but personally I find that sounds as well as scent and smells are really overlooked. A lot of times as visual people, we see things, like that's a very direct experience. But our sense of smell is not, although it is our strongest sense, it is underdeveloped. And so this is something we have to work on. And I've talked about this before in my essential oil videos. And then also sounds. I find that when I'm writing as a writer, I overlook sounds as much as I'm starting to notice this, as much as I give importance to what I'm seeing, like the colors and everything, especially I'm a visual person, I'm sometimes missing the sounds. And sounds are so important. So in this way, engaging music with the cards, I think that's just such a fascinating way to work with the cards. It's something that I don't find often. I don't have any decks that focus on that. I have even decks that work with herbs and essential oils and scents, but music, not really. So he introduces me to pieces of music, and it's very abstract. What I love about this deck is its abstractness, its sense of that ability to just assign energies to words and sounds rather than seeing a representational image. There are very few decks out there that work that way. There are some, but not as many as I would think. And what I love is that there is an emphasis on line and color and shape. So as we will look at the cards in a moment, when I'll talk about that, the movement is important, and that really gets your imagination, your intuition, and all your abilities to work, all your senses to work together. I love that. So trees, he lists some trees based on association, the Ogham associations. Ogham, is that how you pronounce it? Gosh, I should know, but I don't know. And then animals, they make the best guides for the cards. Elements, fire, air, water, earth, and spirits sometimes there is more than one element presented for a card. And then the chakras, based on the energy he associates with a card. And crystals, wow, so much. And then guides is, in this case, animals. If animals aren't working for you, he has included astrological, mythological, tarot, and other possible guides for each card. Wow. And then extra includes books, films, or other ideas that I thought might help with understanding the card and its intended lesson. Wow. Can you make a tarot deck, please, Aylin? Because I think that would be so cool. Your next project. So yes, everybody, that's a lot, right? That's just so much. I mean, I can't even tell you how amazing this guidebook is, And I think reading a guidebook like this, even though it's an oracle deck, and even though it's this particular oracle deck, I think it's just another way of shifting our attention to other ways of seeing. That kind of multi-dimensional level of seeing, where we can start to see everything lining up and connecting, and working with the parts of our brain where we can make connections. And I think this way of using this deck is another exercise for developing that ability. So I think I've said pretty much what I needed to say now about the guidebook, and I'm sure there'll be more that will come up as we look at the cards. So now I'm going to switch the camera, and we're going to be looking at these wonderful, beautiful cards. This is the backing, which I'll show you again. Okay, everyone, see you then. So here we have the cards. I'm going to just go quickly through some of them, just so you get an idea of what they look like. Now, I realize my camera is not the best, but I tried filming this on my tablet, but I couldn't upload it, and it's having issues. So this is just how it's going to be, and I'm hoping that the content of what I'm saying is going to be more important to you than the clarity of my camera. However, like I said before, you can watch other videos on YouTube where you can see the images more clearly. So, Spirit Doodle cards, and I love the backing. Sort of the same design on the cover of the box, and also the higher self card, which I love. I love that he put the higher self as the back of the cards, and the colors kind of match everything, because that makes sense to me. It was his way when making this deck of connecting with his higher self. He also talks about in the guidebook, so I just think that's great. And then the number on the corner, on the left-hand side, you have the number of the card, the keyword in the middle, and then the element on the right-hand corner. And then you have 3 blank cards, which I think is great. I like the addition of blank cards. You can just experiment and make your own doodles. And I love how he's included yes and no in here. So you can see there's 2 complementary colors, green and red, 2 opposite colors. And I just love how the keyword no is included here, because a lot of times I've come across oracle decks where they have the keyword yes, and no is eliminated because it is quote unquote negative. You know, it is a negative word. And so there's a lot of connotations around that in it being a bad word. But he talks beautifully in the book about how important it is to say no sometimes, and how that itself is a spiritual practice, knowing when to say no and using this word in a self-empowering way. And I love what he says about it. So that's really great. You know, like with yes itself, there's shadows that come with that all together. You know, knowing when to say no, when to say yes, sticking to our boundaries. Just love that. So his use of color is intentional. He has included various colors to represent certain elements of the keywords. Sometimes the colors are meant to be connecting with spirit, and of course he emphasizes the colors are there for you to put your own meanings to them as well. Although he's assigning meanings to the colors, they were intentional. And sometimes spirit told him to put certain colors for different reasons, different purposes brought up by the keyword. So anyway, what I wanted to say is when I was working with the images, one thing I did when I first started working with them is I looked through, when I first started actually flipping through the deck, I covered the keywords with my fingers and just tried to see if I could guess through the image alone what the keyword could be. I wanted that kind of the abstractness of the images to speak to me energetically. And this is one thing I truly love about this deck, is that it has that ability, because of its abstractness, to speak on an energetic level. And there's a lot of movement in the images. They're very dynamic. It's almost like the letters of the alphabet, or actually it makes me really think of musical notes and how each note has energy and has vibration, and when put together it makes the composition. So I think there are just innumerable ways of combining these cards together. I think it makes readings really rich when you have that ability to use images like notes in a composition, or colors on a painting palette, where they blend together and create something new every time. I really sense that with this deck. So for example, when I was covering the keywords with my finger, I was looking at this one, ground. And immediately, before seeing the keyword, I thought about a tree and a ground, and it really gave me that sense of groundedness. With this one, transform, I thought about the black and white colors going through and changing to all these different, like turquoise, red, green, yellowish colors all there. So I thought that color is changing, like the black and white is changing to all these colors. So I think that definitely gave me the feeling of transform. Then here, be still. I loved how it just brought my attention to the center. It brought my attention to, like, whew, be still, right there in the center. Express. This one is definitely very expressive. It's like the line is just making all these movements. Stop interfering. I remember thinking about a hand that's just going stop right here with the fingers. Stop. And that's what I saw. I saw a hand going stop, and then I read the keyword. And then with this one, the keyword is magnet. I definitely saw a magnet there. You know, the typical image of the magnet, the horseshoe upside down. And then the red and the black definitely made me think of that. So I think the color choices are really, although they're intuitive, they make sense. This one is communicate. And I liked how there's two halves joined by a little line, and that's like communicating the two parts together. Some of the colors of the blue are merged into the black. Anyway, I don't want to say too much because I like for you to go through the images and see or decide. This card is decide for yourself what they could represent and see what you can learn from them. I love the keywords. And then one last one I wanted to show you is put boundaries. I like that. I like, this one also was one of the cards where I thought about right away. I saw these lines and it was like, it gave me the sense that you're drawing the line to separate. So that need for boundaries, establishing boundaries. Okay, everyone, I think that is about all I wanted to say. And I hope that you have the opportunity to check out this deck and see how you feel about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. And again, I want to thank Aylin for creating this beautiful deck. I think he's working on another one now. And I'm very excited to see what that one is going to be all about. Okay, so thank you for being here. Take care, and I hope everybody's doing really well. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!